Based on the review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John O'Keefe, specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes.
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's a combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm.
Welcome back to Fair and Square Files, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. The Karen Read murder trial continued Tuesday without the jury present. Instead, the defense, prosecution, and even the judge took turns questioning 3 potential expert witnesses who may or may not be allowed to testify. The proceedings featured retired emergency physician and forensic pathologist Dr. Marie Russell, whom the judge noted was brought into the process very late. The prosecution had filed a motion to exclude this witness. The judge went on to explain that there appeared to be a violation of reciprocal discovery regarding Dr. Russell and stated that she wanted to hear from the witness to determine if a violation had occurred. Dr. Russell, in my opinion, provided concise and very honest answers. Now, with her level of expertise and experience, she would surely be allowed to testify in this case. You would think. To be brutally honest, I found myself getting quite frustrated with the judge at times with this, just simply because it appeared though she was trying to find every reason not to let her testify. Her expert opinion is compelling and convincing, in particular when she explains the pattern of injuries to the arm and how they could relate to teeth marks or scratch marks. And if you haven't subscribed already, if you could hit that big red button, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's launch straight into today's proceedings.
What we're here to do today is decide a remedy for this violation. And that's why we're having a voir dire. I am not prohibiting the Commonwealth from anything on their examination of witness Mr. Jackson. The alternative is she doesn't testify. So the Commonwealth has not received the appropriate discovery from this witness, so we're going to have a voir dire, and they can ask her anything that they think they need to ask her. So those are the parameters of this morning.
As long as I know the guardrails, that's fine. I just to close the loop on the record, my understanding, and this little can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, but during the middle of trial, there was a witness that we had never heard of, we did not know and didn't have a report for.
Who is that?
Dr. Fowler, F-A-L-L-E-R.
Okay.
If the court remembers, he's buried in the middle of about 75 witnesses. So he testified to alcohol levels, et cetera, and protocols at the institution at Good Samaritan. And we didn't have that information either. We didn't throw a fit. They said we were going to provide this information in a timely fashion. As soon as we know that we're going to call him, he's got to be on our witness list. We didn't know one way or the other what he was going to say. We didn't have a report, and we went on about our business. That's what we were doing as well. And by the way, I would note that the notes and the report under Rule 14 require disclosure of information you have. I just don't want the court to think that we were sitting on information that we didn't turn over.
I'm not saying that. It's just, this isn't as if it were something that the Commonwealth brought up and you needed to scramble. This is entirely of the defense position. So
I understand.
All right, so that's the big difference. So why don't you go ahead and call her?
Okay. May I be excused to call her?
Yes.
Are you board certified in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Are you a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners?
Yes.
Are you a member of the American Academy of Forensic Science?
Yes.
Do you have any publications in the area? And I'm going to be very specific because you've been relatively widely published. Is that right?
Some people would say yes. Some people would say no.
More than a couple of publications.
Correct.
And peer-reviewed journals, correct?
Yes.
I want to focus your attention on animal injuries. Have you been published in the area of animal injuries specifically?
Yes.
Do you recall those publications?
Yes, they had to do with law enforcement dog bites.
did you draft an article or co-author an article called Managing Law Enforcement Dog Bites in the ER?
Yes, I was a co-author.
1996?
Sounds right.
And that was a peer-reviewed article,
Yes,
ultimately published,
yes,
and ultimately available to be cited by other doctors and studied by other doctors, correct?
correct.
Did you also author or co-author an article entitled Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites, Injuries, Complications, and Trends?
Yes, I did.
Was that in 1997?
Sounds right.
Was that also peer-reviewed?
Yes,
And that publication was also available for other physicians throughout California and throughout the country to refer to for the study of animal bites and dog bites, correct?
dog bites, yes.
Dog bites. Concerning animal injuries, during the course of your professional experience, how many patients have you seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate?
Many hundreds.
Would you say it's over or under 1,000?
I would say it's over 500. I don't know because we didn't keep really good records back in the earlier days.
But it's safe to say you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites and scratches.
Yes, in my 29 years at LA County Hospital, yes. And my dog bites I took care of and dog bites that the residents took care of, yes.
And you've even published articles and studied, not just seen them, but studied dog bites and dog wounds, correct?
Yes,
Have you qualified as an expert previously in other courts as in emergency medicine?
yes,
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
yes,
Has that been in both state and federal court?
yes.
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
Yes,
And that was in furtherance of coming to, if you could, come to an opinion or a conclusion about injuries to the victim in this case, a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
yes.
What did you review in anticipation of your determining whether or not you could come to an opinion or a conclusion?
So I reviewed hospital photographs, autopsy photographs, an autopsy report, grand jury testimony from the medical examiner in this case. There may be some other.
Based on
I just want to ask about that. Do you have notes with you as to what you reviewed?
No.
Okay, so when you say there might be other, you don't.
Well,
If he tells you what you reviewed, you'd know it.
I would recognize it.
All right, but I want to hear it from you. You
Oh, I see.
don't know of anything else that you've reviewed? This is sort of important, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Can you think of anything else, Doctor,
No,
besides
autopsy.
these?
Autopsy photographs, autopsy report, neuropathology report, toxicology report, and the grand jury testimony.
Okay, so as you recall, the items that you reviewed include an autopsy report by Dr. Scortibello, correct?
Yes,
A neuropathology report by a doctor named Stonebridge, correct?
yes,
Toxicological reports associated with the autopsy,
yes,
grand jury transcripts from Dr. Scortibello,
yes.
photographs of evidence items, including a gray sweatshirt,
Oh, yes, yes,
and autopsy photos that were taken attendant to the actual autopsy.
yes, and photographs that were taken in the hospital, and I reviewed the hospital ER record also.
So in addition to what you just listed, there's also hospital photos separate and apart from the autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes,
And those hospital photos showed the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, is that right?
yes,
And you also reviewed emergency room records that are attendant to his initial acceptance into the emergency room on January 29th, 2022, correct?
that's correct.
Based on your review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John O'Keefe, specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes,
what is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's a combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm. There were also some puncture wounds in that shirt.
And are the
So I'm sorry, puncture wounds in the shirt?
Puncture holes in the shirt.
and on what do you base the opinion that the injuries are consistent with dog bite or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. There are different angles on the arm and different locations on the arm, and but they're generally oriented in a specific direction. And there's also an area, the distal forearm, which is close to the wrist, which shows what I believe is an arch area of teeth marks.
And what's the significance of the arch area?
Well, so the arch would be the front area of the jaw of the animal, you know, or the dog in this case, where the teeth tend to be close together and curved. There's a curved pattern to the configuration of the teeth.
I'm going to have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Doctor, I want to show you a series of photographs. Can I approach you?
Yes.
First, can you describe whether or not you recognize what's depicted in that photograph? Have you seen that photograph before?
Yes, I have.
Is that part of what you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
What is that a photograph of?
So this is a photograph of the decedent's arm near the elbow. And do you want me to describe what it shows?
Just briefly. An
Okay.
overview of what
Yeah, and it shows wounds.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that that be marked as next in order of evidence.
All right, so for this voir dire, we'll have separate evidence, right? Is this an exhibit number in the trial already?
It has not been marked yet, so I'm fine with starting over, sort of for the purposes of the voir dire process. However, good.
So this will be a separate voir dire with separate exhibit, yes.
So it's going to be exhibit 1?
Yes.
Your Honor, I want to move this along. This has been marked, but I think...
Hold on. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
This one of the three has already been marked, but if, just for consistency, I'd rather mark it additionally for voir dire. Yes.
You need a separate record for the voir dire.
May I approach?
Yes.
This one's already been marked, but I'll remark it.
And if you'd tell me the exhibit numbers that they are. So you're putting these in now? There's no objection, Mr. Lally?
For purposes of this, no.
Okay. So we'll mark these now, but
May I approach?
yes.
The one with the label 2858 on the bottom has previously been marked in the trial. I would ask that this be marked as the next in order for the voir dire.
But what I want is the exhibit number at the trial.
I'll get that for you. I believe it's exhibit 19.
Okay?
Is that 19?
That's correct.
It's 19.
Okay? And is the third one also in evidence, you said?
2 of the 3 have not been marked. I'll as soon as that court report is ready.
She's ready.
I'm ready.
May I just establish the foundation?
Yes.
The following 2 photographs that I just showed you, Doctor, do you recognize those?
Yes,
Did you also review those in terms of, in furtherance of coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes,
Do they also appear to be different photographs of John O'Keefe's arm?
yes.
I would move for the admission of both of those, Your Honor, for purposes of voir dire.
There's been no objection to them, so they're in. They're already marked.
I just need to know which one's 2 and which one's 3. May I approach?
Yes.
Okay, that's. With court permission, may I publish
Yes.
Exhibit 2 for voir dire?
Yes.
Is this a photograph of of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes,
Is this one of the several photographs that you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about this. There should be a laser pointer on the desk.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain for the jurors what it is about the injuries that assisted you in coming to your opinion and conclusion that this is from an animal attack?
Okay, there's several patterns here. So, for instance, let's look here, right near the elbow, the exterior part of the elbow. There's these 2 linear marks, which appear to be from upper teeth, and 2 punctures below those, which are superficial, meaning they didn't go very deep into the skin, but they appear from the lower teeth. So that's one pattern. There's another pattern close to the shoulder, which shows parallel marks, these 2, and maybe a third one in the middle, parallel marks that are oriented at a certain angle. And these are superficial wounds, which are consistent with teeth marks. They also could be possibly consistent with nail marks, but
With what?
nails from claw, yes.
All right.
We have some more here, similar from obviously different teeth involved or different claws, and then down here, closer to the wrist, we have an unusual pattern of at least 4 striations, the way I see it, at least 4 striations that I believe are caused from the teeth towards the front of the mouth, near the arch. It appears that there's an arch pattern here. So,
In a dog attack or in an animal attack, in your experience, and we can take this one down. Let's cover the ground on the 3 exhibits that we've already marked. Can we take a look at exhibit 1? Is this just a may I publish, Your Honor? Yes. I apologize. Is this just a close-up of the same injuries?
Yes,
And do these appear to be consistent with what you just testified to in terms of either teeth or claw marks, especially as it relates to the area closest to the elbow?
yes,
All right. And then looking at Exhibit 3. May I publish?
Yes.
Is this a close-up view of the area closer to the wrist that indicated those parallel, you used the word striations?
yes,
All right, and these appear to be taken attendant to the autopsy as opposed to the other photograph, Exhibit 2, that was taken in the hospital. Is that right?
that is correct.
All right. And would the time difference account for the slight change in the nature of the wound?
It could,
Photograph of the wound, I guess?
it could, or a different technique, yes.
Okay. Let me take this down. Did you take into consideration the lack, in coming to your opinion and conclusion, the lack of other injuries, for instance, fractures, broken bones, or deep bruising, soft tissue injuries?
Oh, yes.
How did that play into your opinion?
Well, so of course I considered, what else could have caused these wounds, before coming to my conclusion. And so I wanted to rule out other things. And there were no significant major bodily injuries that, outside the head. There was nothing, there were no fractures of the long bones, the chest, the pelvis, the arms. So yeah, so having seen hundreds and hundreds of car accident victims and people hit by cars, I ruled that out very quickly.
Okay. And in terms of the injuries that you did see, especially as they're attendant to the arm, based on everything that we've discussed today, is it your opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack as opposed to a motor vehicular pedestrian incident?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I can take you back to, you were talking about some police training that you had received when you were in the academy or while you were working with the police department here in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of training what did that training consist of?
Well, I attended and graduated from the standard police academy at that time. And then I took additional courses that were offered from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council. And these were taught generally by experts in their fields, and they were on a variety of subjects that are listed in my CV, included, the hit and run accident investigation, forensic.
There, just for a minute, ma'am. Doctor, in reference to your training as it pertains to hit and run accidents, what did that training consist of?
Oh, well, mechanisms of how accidents occur, mechanisms of how to determine, what vehicle was involved in an accident. I don't, it was a long, long time ago, but yeah. So determining if people were struck by vehicles, what vehicle was involved, or if there was auto versus auto accident, what vehicles were involved.
And I don't mean to belittle this training whatsoever, but is it fair to say that that was relatively rudimentary training that you received in the academy?
Probably. I would not, yes, okay, probably. If
You don't have any training in crash reconstruction or anything like that, correct?
That is correct.
And am I correct in you indicated that you're board certified in emergency medicine, is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're not board certified in forensic pathology or anatomical pathology or any kind of pathology?
That's correct.
And the last time that you worked as a coroner, when was that?
Last time was in 1995 when I was doing autopsies for the coroner's office. I have since, though, consulted on some cases from the LA coroner's office.
What about 30 years ago? Is that about right?
For autopsy, yes.
Now, have you ever testified in a case in which either Mr. Jackson or Attorney Little were counsel?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And when was it that you first were contacted in reference to this case?
The first contact was May 15th.
May 15th of what year?
May 17th, excuse me, of this year, 2024. Yes.
And you went through a list of things that you were provided and you reviewed, and you mentioned hospital photos, correct?
Yes.
Autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
An autopsy report, is that correct?
Yes.
Grand jury testimony from the medical examiner, is that correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report, is that correct?
Yes.
A toxicology report, is that correct?
Yes.
And then I think you also remembered some photos of some clothing items, is that correct as well?
Yes, a shirt. And
Anything else?
yeah, hospital ER record.
Hospital ER records?
Yeah, yes.
Anything else that you can think of?
No.
Did you ask for anything else to review?
No.
Were you told of any other material that was available for your review that you weren't then given?
Well, I requested that that I focus in on the wounds, so I didn't ask for a lot of material in this case.
But fair to say that you were looking for anything and everything, material to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Please say that again.
Sure. Fair to say that you would want to look at anything and everything that was related to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Yes.
And so, did you make any specific requests as to what material you were provided, or were you just handed some material or forwarded some material and you looked at what you were given?
No, I requested that I have the autopsy photographs, the ER records, the ER photographs. I requested those.
Now, you mentioned some articles that you had written that were published back in 1996 and 1997 related to dog bites, is that right?
Yes.
Are those publicly available articles?
Yes.
And in those articles that you wrote, you were talking about law enforcement bites, correct?
Yes.
So law enforcement canine bites typically involve what people call sort of a bite and hold technique. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So is there a difference between, through your experience and the hundreds of dog bites that you've seen, is there a difference between what you would observe from a dog bite from a law enforcement canine versus just your domesticated dog?
Well, yes. Now, the study, one of those studies was over 700 dog bite wounds, and there were two techniques used at that time: bite and hold, and later on, bark and hold, or bark and alert, or something of that nature. So there are different techniques, but yes, to specifically answer that question, which was, are they generally different from regular domestic dog bites? Yes.
Now, did you write a report in regard to your opinion that you testified to here today?
No.
Why not?
I don't think there was much time, and I didn't know if I was going to be actually testifying.
How long would it take you to write a report?
I wasn't asked to write a report, excuse me.
Were you asked specifically not to write a report?
No.
Now, at any point in time, did you ever look at anything related to Mr. O'Keefe's head injury?
Oh, yes.
So you reviewed reports in relation to that, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any opinions as it pertains to that?
I would rather defer to the pathologist and neuropathologist on that.
So who contacted you about this case?
I contacted a district attorney that I had worked with in the past. We were discussing a different case, a case that I autopsied in 1995. And I mentioned that I heard that there was a case in Massachusetts that might have been being handled by one of his colleagues, his former colleagues, and that there was an issue of whether something was a dog bite, and that I might be able to help in that case, to clarify.
And so when you were provided this material, what is it that you were specifically asked to do?
To look at the wounds and the reports and the materials that were sent to me and render an opinion.
And so before you had even been provided any material, before you had even looked at anything, you had already heard information related to there being a dog bite involved in this case, correct?
I had heard that there was a controversy, that there's some certain wounds could have been a dog bite versus perhaps inflicted by a motor vehicle. That's what I had heard.
So what I'm really trying to get at, Doctor, is sort of the timeline. Okay, so you hear about this, when was that?
Sometime just before May 17th.
So sometime just prior to that, you hear about some controversy in a case in Massachusetts involving a dog bite. On May 17th, you get reached out to by who specifically?
His name is John Lewin. He's an attorney in the LA District Attorney's Office.
And then who did you talk to after that?
I reached out to him. I said I might be able to clarify. And then he reached out to Mr. Jackson, I believe, and then Mr. Jackson contacted me.
And not asking specifically anything you spoke about, but at some point, the discussion came specifically to dog bites, correct?
He sent me the materials. He asked me my opinion.
Mentioned the materials, asked you your opinion. When did you provide that opinion?
Probably the next day. Yes, I know it was the next day.
So the very next day on May 18th, you provided an opinion?
Yes,
And was that opinion provided in a written fashion, orally? How was that provided?
orally.
So you reached out to someone shortly before May 17th, spoke to Mr. Jackson on the 17th, received all the material, and then had an opinion by May 18th.
Yes.
But you didn't write any of that down.
No.
Now, beyond the materials that you were provided, what else were you told about the case?
I was told that the victim was a police officer. The decedent was a police officer. I was told that the defendant had been charged, and I was told that that there was a controversy about whether or not these injuries had been caused by a motor vehicle. And I was also told, and I read in the medical record, that the decedent was found outdoors, I believe in the snow, and hypothermic.
Now, in regard to what you reviewed, you didn't review any investigative reports, is that correct?
That is correct.
You didn't review any witness statements, is that correct?
That's correct.
You didn't review any lab reports as far as from the forensic lab or anything like that?
I reviewed the toxicology report.
Beyond that, any other?
If it was part of the autopsy report, I reviewed it.
You reviewed everything attendant to the medical examiner's file, is that correct?
Yes.
Nothing from the lab beyond that?
I don't believe I did.
Now, this first instance when you say you heard about it, how did you hear about it?
Well, I believe it was via a headline that I received in my email from the from Boston Globe headline. You know, it was some kind of there was some kind of interesting case, and I got it as an email, and I looked into it.
And when was that?
Well, that was that week in May. That just a few days before May 17th.
You subscribe to the Boston Globe online?
I did at that time. I have not renewed it.
How long had you been a subscriber to the Boston Globe?
I'm going to allow it.
Probably a year or 6 months, 6 months to a year.
There was never any headlines or anything else that you saw about this prior to that week just before May 17th?
Not that I paid attention to.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Nothing further.
All right, so since this is a voir dire, I get to ask questions, doctor? So
Oh, yes,
I
okay.
just have a couple of questions for you. I don't think I really heard you. So could you tell me again what your opinion is and to what degree you hold that opinion?
Yes. These injuries in the arm are, my opinion is that they are the result of animal bites or scratches.
And do you know what kind of animal?
Oh, yes, most likely dog, large dog. And I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical certainty, very
right,
high,
so
high degree of medical certainty.
Reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and another question. So I received information that you also viewed all reports associated with Chloe, a dog's prior bite history. Did you review those?
No, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that.
That you also reviewed the UC Davis DNA testing results submission forms?
No, I don't recall seeing them.
Okay, any follow-up, any questions based on my questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you are all set, doctor. I don't know yet whether you'll be testifying.
Okay.
We'll try and let you know. You're going to be around for a few days?
No.
Okay, we'll let you know as soon as we can, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Thank
All right. Thank you.